So, hello students, a very good morning to all, and I welcome you to the daily newspaper analysis of 22nd of April. And I am back with three new important current affairs with respect to prelims as well as mains. So, without any delay, let's start our discussion. So, here we will be discussing three important topics. First is related to the privilege motion. Second is related to the spectrum, and third is related to the smart wash basins, a very important article under Science and Tech from The Hindu. So if we talk about the privilege motion, so this motion was given in the parliament. The notice for the breach of privilege was given to the speaker of Lok Sabha. And what was the background? So as we know that 131st constitutional amendment bill was defeated, and because of that there were some comments from the ruling party also and from the opposition party also. So this was the context under which this privilege motion was in news. Now, second article is related to the spectrum. So here important things for us to know is what is spectrum and what is spectrum auction and what is the background, why this thing was in news. And third important article is about the smart wash basins. So here and we shall be discussing about any smart devices, that what is the basic technology and what is the basic principle under which any smart device will work. So here is the first topic. So the Congress has submitted the privilege motion against the Prime Minister to the Speaker of Lok Sabha. So what is the news? Congress has submitted the privilege motion. Privilege motion against whom? Privilege motion was submitted against the Prime Minister of India. Now, why this motion was submitted? So for this, we must know a brief background. So as you know, after 131st Constitutional Amendment Bill was defeated, after that on 18th of April, the Prime Minister of India addressed the nation. And according to opposition parties, in that address, the address of the Prime Minister was harsh as well as unfair. So according to the opposition parties, the address was very harsh and unfair, because in that address, the Prime Minister of India has criticized the opposition parties. Along with that, the Prime Minister has also questioned the voting behavior of MPs. So this was a very big thing for the opposition parties, because Prime Minister has questioned the voting behavior itself. Next thing is, according to the opposition parties, the Prime Minister is misusing the public office for the political gains. So these were the allegations which were made by the opposition parties. Now, next thing for you to know is that according to Article 105 of the Constitution, which provides basically two privileges to the MPs. So one of the important privilege is the freedom of speech and expression in the parliament. Now, as I have already discussed, that according to opposition parties, the Prime Minister of India has questioned the voting behavior itself. So it is the breach of that privilege, because the MPs have all the rights to speak anything and to vote to any person. So it is a breach of privilege for the MPs. So that's why here Article 105 also becomes very important. So what Article 105 says, as I've already discussed, that MPs have the freedom of speech and expression in the parliament, and no one, not even the Prime Minister of India, can question the voting behavior of MPs. So these were the basic things which were discussed in the article. So let's discuss the summary also briefly. So as we have discussed, Indian National Congress has moved a privilege motion, and that privilege notice was put before the Speaker of Lok Sabha. And what was the controversy? Controversy arose after the defeat of 131st Constitutional Amendment Bill. So these were the basic allegations. The allegations were Prime Minister cast aspersions on MP's integrity as well as independence. So cast aspersions means the comments which are given by a particular person. So the comments are very harsh and unfair. So these were the allegations which were made by the opposition parties. Now, let's briefly discuss about the parliamentary privileges, because they can be asked in prelims. So what are parliamentary privileges? Basically, these privileges are the special immunities which are given to the members of parliament and their committees. And these privileges are given individually also, and these privileges are given collectively also. So privileges are present in the individual manner also and in the collective manner also. Now, next important thing is that along with the members of parliament, other persons who are given the right to speak in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha or any of the committees, they also have these kind of privileges. So, I'm about what persons I'm talking about. Any other person who is not member of parliament but has the right to speak. So, for example, here will come the Attorney General of India, and any other union minister can also come here. So, apart from MPs, any other person who has the right to speak will be having these kind of privileges. So here Attorney General of India is important. Now, important point to note here is that president, these kind of privileges are not extended to president. But if we talk about the parliament, that what are the constituents of parliament, then president come there. So president, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. But these kind of parliamentary privileges are not available to the president of India. And if the privileges for president are not available here, that does any article talks about the privileges? Yes. So under Article 361 of the Constitution, privileges for the President of India has been provided. Now, as I've already discussed that here Article 105 is very important. So it's important for us to discuss. So Article 105 of the Constitution explicitly mentions two privileges. The first privilege is the freedom of speech and expression in the parliament, and second privilege is the right of publication of its proceedings. So here this the first privilege, the freedom of speech and expression in the parliament, has been breached according to the opposition parties, because the prime minister has questioned the voting behavior itself. Very important thing to note here is all the privileges of the MPs are not still codified. So parliament till now has not made any special law to codify all the privileges. This thing is very important for the prelims. So parliamentary privileges are not yet codified. Article 105 talks about just the two privileges which are given to the members of parliament. First is the freedom of speech and expression, and second is the right of publication of its proceedings. Okay, now let's quickly discuss the role of the chairpersons, because as we discussed in the context, so the privilege notice was submitted to the Speaker of Lok Sabha. So this privilege motion, first important thing is, can be introduced in any house, either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Here it was introduced in Lok Sabha, so the notice was submitted to Lok Sabha. So the chairperson of any house will be the first level of scrutiny. So the all the proceedings of the notice will start from here. Now, it depends on the speaker, it depends on the chairperson. It depends on the chairperson whether he or she himself will decide about the motion, or it will be referred to the parliamentary committee on privileges. So first thing, the speaker or chairperson can himself decide, or if he is not deciding, he will refer the matter to the parliamentary privileges. Now, under the relevant rules, if the speaker or chairperson can provide the time, particular time or opportunity for the concerned person to give a short statement. So these are the powers of the speaker or the chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Now quickly let's discuss about the rules which are governing the privilege. So if we talk about the Lok Sabha, so rule number 222 in chapter 20 of Lok Sabha rule book. So you don't need to remember the exact number, just you need to remember this, that there is a mention of parliamentary privileges under Lok Sabha rule book, as well as there is also mention under the Rajya Sabha rule book. You don't need to remember the exact number, that rule number 222 or rule number 187. Now, what the rule says that with the consent of the chairperson, that is the speaker or chairperson, just a second. Yes, sorry. So, what the rule says? The rule says if any member want to introduce the privilege motion or want to give notice or privilege notice to the chairperson, so with the consent of chairperson, that particular member can do that. Now let's discuss briefly about the privilege committee also, because as we have discussed, the speaker or chairperson himself can decide the matter, or it can refer the matter to the privilege committee. So first important thing, privilege committee is a standing committee, first important thing. And these committees are present in Lok Sabha also, as well as in Rajya Sabha also. So if we talk about the committee in Lok Sabha, so it has 50 members. And if we talk about committees in Rajya Sabha, so it has 10 members. So these are important things which we must know about the privilege motion or privilege notice. Now, second important article is related to spectrum. So this thing is very important for the prelims as well as mains. So the news says SBI, that is State Bank of India, seeks review of Supreme Court verdict barring the use of spectrum as an asset in IBC proceedings, that is insolvency and bankruptcy court proceedings. So first of all, let's discuss overall thing, what all things happened and why SBI is seeking review. See, recently in a Supreme Court judgment, what happened in recent Supreme Court judgment? Just a second, I will change. Yes. So recently in a Supreme Court judgment, what Supreme Court has given the decision that spectrum is not owned by telecom companies. So telecom companies can never own the spectrum, and the real owner of the spectrum is the people of India, because the spectrum, according to Supreme Court, spectrum is considered as a scarce natural resource which is owned by the public. And if anything is owned by the public, that means the government of India will be the trustee of that particular thing. So this has a major significance when we are talking about the IBC, that is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Court proceedings, because Supreme Court has said, as Supreme Court has already said, that spectrum is not owned by the telecom companies, that it is owned by the people. That means Government of India is the trustee. So Supreme Court has said that telecom companies will get only the limited and the temporary license by the Government of India. So they can get the temporary license, which is also revocable, but they cannot own it. Now, if I am talking about the insolvency and bankruptcy proceedings, so for example, a particular company A has defaulted, and if that company has defaulted, then that company has to repay the creditors, right? Because if a particular company has defaulted but creditors need their money, so it has to repay the creditors. So how this repayment was done under insolvency and bankruptcy code, the assets of company A were diluted. But now, as Supreme Court has said that spectrum is not an asset and telecom companies cannot own the spectrum, then it is a major issue. Then how the company, if any company has defaulted, then how telecom companies will repay the creditors? So this is a major issue here. So that's why State Bank of India is concerned. Just a second. Yes. So that's why State Bank of India has moved a review petition, because the concern here is, see, the telecom companies will take the loans from the bank. Bank will lend the telecom companies based on the assets they are having, based on the capacity, so that they can repay them back. Now, if the asset, that is the, if a spectrum is not considered as asset, then the banks cannot lend the telecom companies based on the spectrum, because now it is no more considered as asset. So this was the important thing. Now quickly, let's discuss about the spectrum, what spectrum is, because it is also very important, because we say spectrum, this is auction of the spectrum, this and that, but you must have a basic idea what spectrum is. So if we talk about the spectrum, so let's understand first this. See, for example, this is point A and this is point B, and you are having a cell phone with you. Now, if you want to send a signal from point A to B, you will be needing a medium which we call as airwaves. So what are airwaves? Airwaves are part of radio waves only. These are part of radio waves. So with the use of airwaves, you can send a signal from point A to B. Now, when you see, various types of devices will be working at that time. So you need to allocate the band of different frequencies, different frequencies, so that the signals cannot interrupt with each other. So this is the basic thing. Now these airwaves only are called the spectrum. These airwaves, which helps a signal to move from point A to B, these airwaves are called spectrum, and this spectrum is divided into different bands. So these bands are allocated to different telecom companies so that signals may not interfere. Now let's discuss about the auction. So as you know that government is owning the spectrum. So government is the real owner of the spectrum. Government is the trustee of the spectrum on behalf of the people of India. So these spectrum or these airwaves are sold for a certain period of time by the government, and validity is generally 20 years. So why government is selling these spectrums? See, with the increase of modern technology, with the increase of modern devices, the need for the space, the need for the spectrum space, the need for the frequency bands is increasing. That's why government is encouraging telecom companies to build these kind of infrastructures which can send signals from one point to other point. And for that, various telecom companies will be needing different kind of frequencies or different kind of spectrum bands. So this will be a main important thing. Now, yes. So here, just a second. Yes. Here, next important article is about the smart wash basin. So here you must know a basic idea how generally the smart devices work. So here, let's discuss first of all about what is a smart wash basin. So in this way, you will understand the basic principles which are governing the some of the important smart devices. So basically, what is smart wash basin? Smart wash basin is nothing but which uses a tap which works on the photo sensors and which works on the IR waves and works on the photodiodes. So what is the basic purpose of smart wash basin? Based on the sensors and electronic devices, it will regulate the flow of water. This is the major purpose. Now, let's discuss the principle under which all these things work. See, I will explain in very simple manner. For example, this is your wash basin and this is your tap. Now, in smart wash basins, what will happen? This tap is having a sensor, and this sensor will be continuously sending the infrared waves. This sensor will be continuously sending infrared waves. So if nothing is here in front of infrared waves, nothing will happen. But quickly, as you put your hand just below the tap, so these infrared rays will get reflected from your hand and the sensor will sense it. So after the sensor senses it, it will send a signal to the valve and the valve will get open. So this is the very basic principle behind the smart wash basin, how it works. Basic principle, it works on first is the infrared waves, that is infrared wave sensing. And second, it works on the photodiodes. Now, what is the basic principle of photodiodes? See, as I've already discussed that smart wash basins have sensors. So the sensors have two things. First of all, it will have an emitter which is emitting the infrared waves. Second, it will be having a receiver. So when these waves reflect, when these waves strike your hand and they are reflected back, so here the receiver in the sensor will receive these signals, and these receivers are in the form of photodiodes. And what is the purpose of photodiodes? They will convert the light energy into the electrical signals, and these electrical signals will be given to the valve, and hence valve will open. So if you put your hand just below the tap, the infrared rays will strike your hand and will go back to the sensor. Signals will be given to the valve and valve will get open. But if nothing is there, then no signal to the valve and it will not open. So this is the basic principle. So basic what you need to know. First of all, it works on the principle of infrared sensing. And second important thing, why infrared waves are used, because these waves cannot be seen by the human beings, because human beings can see in only a particular range of electromagnetic spectrum, and that is the visible light. Infrared rays cannot be seen by human beings, so it will not disturb the user also, because other lights, other visible lights human beings can see, but infrared rays cannot be seen by human beings. Yes, so quickly let's discuss the principle. So the principle first was the IR sensing and second was the reflection. So I think about the electromagnetic waves I already discussed. So here what kind of waves we are using? We are using infrared waves. So they will just strike the object and they will reflect back. And second, the second thing we discussed about the photodiode. So in photodiode, whenever light falls on the material of which photodiode is made, whenever light falls on it, so because of that, the electrons will start moving and hence the electrical signals will be sent. Now, this reflection principle of infrared rays you can see in other things also. If we talk about the Earth observation satellites, so they are in the remote sensing satellites or Earth observation satellites. Also, this reflection principle of infrared rays are used, because what these rays will do, these rays will just strike the object and they will be reflected back. So this reflection will be different for the different kind of objects. So in that way, you can know how is the surface of the object or what is the tree canopy in the forest, etc. etc. Now, a quick practice question for you. So practice question is related to infrared rays. So with respect to IR radiation and its applications, consider the following statements. First is infrared radiation is visible to the human eye. Second is photodiodes can convert light signals into electrical signals. And third is automatic wash basins work on the principle of reflection of infrared radiation. So now read the question once again, go through the content what we discussed and try to give answer in the comment section. So yes, that's all from my side for today. If you have any doubt, you can ask in the comment section. And thank you. Have a nice day.